Just wake me up, just wake me up, don't let me down. Just give me coffee. Just wake me up, just wake me up, just wake me up,
Horse is cold,
just wake me up, just wake me up, don't let me down.
give me coffee.
Just wake me up, just wake me up, just wake me up,
Horse is cold, just let me be blunt. My speech in the morning, nothing but grunts. With no coffee, that's as dangerous. On a scale from 1 to 10, I rank it that girl from Stranger Things. And if you get what I'm saying, my attitude be mad flagrant like I'm Draymond. But you ain't get the picture, PFP. So I'm gonna keep pushing on you, GNC. It's like, yeah, the first thing on my mind is when that hot coffee gonna seep into the coffee grind.
It's like some magic's floating all in the air.
Toss some ice cubes in my cup, it's a good day. All I gotta say is that it's starting in a good way.
It's time for working and I don't even care. Just wake me up, just wake me up, don't let me down.
Just give me coffee.
Just wake me up, just wake me up, just wake me up.
Horse is cold,
Just wake me up, just wake me up, don't let me down.
give me coffee.
Just wake me up, just wake me up, just wake me up.
Horse is cold, always start fresh, that's how it's gotta be. Everything starts back with your coffee beans. If it's cold brew, then it's gotta be coarse. Don't get the cart ahead of the horse, start learning the course. But of course you can disregard, and don't at me if it gets too hard. When it's my time to drink, man, it's always on hand. Drink from a cup or a bottle, even a can. You never know when you're craving a hit. It could be in the bathroom while you're taking a
Ric Flair will say he ain't got nothing on it.
When that coffee hits my lips, it's a seance. Feeling real super with the cape on. Anything I'll take on.
This cup of coffee, yeah boy, this is the shit. Just wake me up, just wake me up, don't let me down.
Just give me coffee.
Just wake me up, just wake me up, just wake me up.
Horse is cold,
Just wake me up, just wake me up, don't let me down.
give me coffee.
Just wake me up, just wake me up, just wake me up.
Horse is cold, third verse, so I guess that's where I talk about how we might be addicted in a roundabout kind of way, or how you say, a dependency that's in my life, and I'm proud to say it's filling me with way more energy than I'll ever need, keeping me up for things I thought I'd never see. Time's gonna kill us all one day, whether old age, illness, or from listening to Coldplay. F that noise, wubba love love, drink all the coffee, chug a lug lug, the day doesn't.
Good morning, all of you beautiful nerds from around the world, and welcome to the morning stream here on the Den of Nerds Live, the very best way to start your nerdy day. On today's show, we've got to talk about the future of Star Wars, another feather in the cap of live-action Star Wars on Disney Plus was teased. Grand Admiral Thrawn, Mithrandu, coming to live action. Daniel Richtman, very reliable source, is commenting on that fact. Gives me all sorts of ideas, man, all sorts of crazy ideas, considering the things we know about the Rebel sequel series, considering the things we know about the possibility of a solo Ahsoka series. Kind of looks like they might be setting Thrawn up for a big role in what I am calling the Star Wars MCU moving forward on Disney Plus. One of the most underrated, if not the most underrated Star Wars YouTuber on this platform, Lord Callas, is joining the program. I'm very excited to be talking to him about that stuff. But let's say what is up to everybody in chat. Good morning, everybody. Let's see. We got Mike Porter in here. We've got Gray. Good morning. Crazed Panda. Star Wars Santa. Hawks Holocrons. James Heaton. Brian O'Connor. Marvel Maniac. The Spider-Man Show. Fanjectures here. Justin Simone. Bill M. Wolfpack Personal Training. Hector. Flatbush Zombie. Justin Crichton Smith. Star Wars Santa's in the building. Ray Hall. Trevor Lucas. Oh my goodness. So many beautiful people here in the morning. What's going on, everybody? How are you guys doing? And you know what? I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with Marvel Maniac. Don't forget, use your force powers. Choke that like button. Choke that like button, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I'm excited. I'm personally really excited. This is Chet, bring that music down just a little bit. Actually, you know what? Pause the music. Can you do that for me? Okay. I'm low-key starting to get really, really excited about the future of Star Wars. I think we're heading in a good place, man. And I'm starting to see comments too, which are pretty encouraging. And they're like, man, I really want to be excited for this, or oh man, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm actually getting excited for this, which is kind of the attitude that's kind of the thing that I want to see, because I think that, even people that defend Disney and the sequels, we understand that, look, things can be much better, and they should be much better. And so this is a really interesting time. I'm starting to get really excited, and I now want to bring onto the program Lord Callas himself. Callas, are you there?
I am here. Yes, I am. Thank you for having me, sir.
Absolutely, my
Pleasure.
friend. Absolutely. It's really good to have you on here, man. So many people tell me that you're just one of the most underrated people on this platform. I mean, I watched a bunch of your content. It's like you have the silkiest, smoothest voice in the game. You obviously know a lot about Star Wars lore, particularly like when it comes to what is now Legends. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, I would say that's correct. I delve deep in the lore from Legends, and I'm catching myself up with the new canon as well.
Gotcha. So the thing I think I want to start, and honestly, like the place I want to end, or where I want to go to, is sort of talking about, this new, what Disney seems to be doing with Disney Plus, with Thrawn, Ahsoka, Ezra. But just because you and I have never talked Star Wars before, man, I want to kind of go back. From your perspective, what was it like in, I think it was 2014, right? When Disney says the EU is becoming Legends and now this new canon is being established. What was that like for you? What did you think then about that? And what do you think now about that?
Well, at first, of course, it was heartbreaking because I have bookshelves full of novelizations. And when you first hear that all of that is now tossed out the window, it was kind of heartbreaking, because you kind of feel like everything that all of that knowledge that I had up in here was for nothing. But as time went on, I still enjoy the stories. I still love to have those callbacks and those memories from that lore. So it's just a tough spot to be in, I love Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars fan. So yes, it was heartbreaking, but I kind of took it on the chin. I'm like, all right, let's move forward. Let's see what they have to offer. Right. And so that's kind of the mindset that I have right now.
I got you. And so I guess the next question is, of the Disney content, as you sort of got into, I guess, what you would call new canon, but people like Timothy Zahn just say it's the canon, and it sort of downplays the connective tissue that was there in the expanded universe. What's been some of the stuff that you think is they've nailed, and then what is the stuff that you think they haven't nailed?
That's a good question. I can't say they've nailed anything. My biggest, the biggest upset, of course, for me was just the treatment of Luke Skywalker in the sequel trilogy, and just in this new canon. So and that his mistreatment, if you will, in my opinion, is beyond just the sequel trilogy. It's now crossing over into the comics, and so and that's just my opinion. But that kind of keeps me a little bit off put. But I did really enjoy the Lords of the Sith novelization. I thought that they hit that. I loved Dooku. The Jedi Lost. I also liked what was the one with what's it called? The Apprentice with Obi-Wan and
Master and the Apprentice, yeah,
and
Claudia Gray.
yeah, I enjoyed that one. So I can't say at this point that they've nailed anything, but I think that there's ups and downs. There's good and there's bad. And I think that this Thrawn, I've only read the first of the Thrawn trilogy of the new canon, or the canon, if you will.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that one. I think that they did a better, Zahn did a better job than Rebels did depicting Thrawn, because Thrawn, of course, was, from Legends, he was a beast, and I think that like you said in your video, they've I wouldn't say they've softened him, but they've kind of made him a little bit more empathetic or sympathetic.
Yeah,
and so I do like that aspect of his character now. I think that that's interesting, and I'm again only into the first novel for that new canon, or for the canon.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like I like a lot of those properties too. I'll say this, man. When I first read Lords of the Sith, I was like, holy crap. I was just like, dude, like, here we go, because it was beautiful. It was raw. It had Ahsoka in it. There was a lot of thoughts of like Anakin thinking about Ahsoka, and so it felt really connected. And to me, at first, I was like, this is really good. If Lucasfilm can do this and connect this to everything, that would be great. And I think one of my the biggest gripe I have with what they did with Legends and what they did with their canon was they didn't really follow through on the promise, right? So like it's a great, I actually think it's a good decision to sort of be like, okay, all of this is existing as sort of Legends. It doesn't really exist in our canon, but from now on, everything that you purchase, everything that you read, everything you engage with as a Star Wars fan is going to build out this tapestry. I think that's great. The problem was it actually didn't. It did to a point, and then it stops like right up at the movie. And I've talked to people sort of on both sides of, whatever you want to call it, like the fan war or just the divided Star Wars fandom.
Yeah.
And I think that, most people agree, no matter what side they're on, that like, yeah, that was kind of a bummer. I don't know if you ever read Catalyst, but Catalyst.
I have it, but I didn't.
Yeah, I really liked that book, man. It was really interesting, and it really got me invested in the character of Galen Erso. It really got me invested in Krennic. And then the thing that was really bizarre is you go to see Rogue One, and even though I really like Rogue One, those characters are nothing like what they're depicted as in the novels. And so, yeah, it's really weird. So I think there was a sort of I'll just call it what it is. I think that when it came to the movies, Lucasfilm was just way too Hollywood about it and just didn't let that nerdy Star Wars thing just come in. Like, they kept the story group at bay, they kept a lot of things at bay, and they just allowed the filmmakers to sort of have carte blanche with these projects.
Wasn't Rogue One released before Catalyst, though?
So, no, Catalyst came out before Rogue One, and it actually had to be rewritten. This is something I've talked to some people about this, just kind of like what happened behind the scenes. But, famously, Gareth Edwards, he was working on Rogue One, and they just had a lot of trouble pulling together the third act. And so they bring in the guy, I'm blanking on the guy's name right now, but they paid this guy like $5 to $10 million to come in and basically rework the movie.
Yeah.
And so after that, Lucino had to go back and sort of recreate the novel, right? Which is crazy. And it's still an amazing novel. Like, it's still really, really good. It came out, I want to say, 3 or 4 weeks before the film, and I devoured it, because at that time I was like, we're getting back into Star Wars, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, let's like read everything, So yeah, I can appreciate your position on that. Now, this is where I guess we can shift into this different side of the conversation, because, I've sort of been very vocal since Rise of Skywalker and some of the things that I sort of heard behind the scenes and what I'm thinking Disney is doing. And to me, it really feels like they have learned that lesson, potentially, and that what they're doing now is really setting up a much better connective tissue between these things. I call it the Star Wars MCU. People hate that I call it that, by the way. But that's what I think is happening. So I guess my question to you is, how do you feel about that? Are you willing to embrace that? Are you skeptical? Are you, show me first? What's your feelings about that?
Yeah, I'm always positive and willing to accept it until they burn me. The thought is, I appreciate the attempt to keep the continuity in place. I appreciate that, and with each, for me, my biggest downfall again was The Last Jedi. So when I look at Disney as a whole, I say, okay, the only one that I really would love to pull out of that box is The Last Jedi. So I don't think anything else was a failure. It may not have necessarily, they may have, I might have done some things a little bit differently with the way that they've done some things, but the only failure for me was The Last Jedi. Right. Failure. Right. The Rise of Skywalker was to me, but it wasn't the failure that The Last Jedi was for me. And so as I look at it as a whole, for example, these comics, the Destiny's Path and the new Vader comics that they have coming out right now, the Kylo Ren comics. So I went into them hoping to see something that was that would elevate that, right? Since they're going back to the Empire Strikes Back days, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to see that they're going to tell me something different from that time period without necessarily deconstructing what was already built. So that's what I'm looking for, and they keep touching in that as Destiny Path or that Vader comic, they keep touching to, and it's almost making me feel like they are going to begin to deconstruct what has already been built, and that's what I'm very skeptical of. So I am completely open to them building.
Right.
Let's move forward. Let's build more.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
But as far as what's already established, there's no reason for us to have to tear that down to build up the future. Let's just move forward.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I'm in agreement with you there. I think that the bottom line is they're in a weird, tricky spot, and like, honestly, we could probably do like a whole series talking about The Last Jedi. You know what I mean? Like, we could go on forever. They really, I mean, it's such a weird thing, man. And as a fan and as sort of a content creator, I've ebbed and flowed on that film a lot. Like when I first saw it, I was like incredibly confused and conflicted. But to be completely honest with you, I actually relish that experience because I don't know if you had this experience. Maybe you had like just a completely off-putting negative experience, which I understand. But for me, the experience was something like, what the hell's happening, and trying to like make sense of it as I'm watching the film and being genuinely surprised by some of the things that happen. So while I do see the film for having a lot of problems, and the crux of the issue is Luke Skywalker. If they had just reined Ryan in a little bit, like just a little bit, not even like a full on, but just a little bit, I feel like we'd be in a completely different situation. You know what I mean? I think people really underestimate what that created.
Exactly, because that film, I was one who actually enjoyed The Force Awakens. So because of what I thought, as The Force Awakens ended, I was excited for what The Last Jedi was supposed to be.
Yeah. Right.
And so when it came, when the outcome was what it was, it sullied that for me because it was a fundamental change in Luke Skywalker's character for me. As I saw Luke Skywalker, as I had come to know Luke Skywalker in the Legends novels, that just wasn't him. That was a fundamental change of his character, and so to me, it changed everything that The Force Awakens set up, or my anticipation for what The Last Jedi was going to be. And so, just like you said, there was genuine surprise, and that surprise was also, it was confusion. Like, what is going on? Like, that's that was
Yeah.
the basis for me.
Yeah, I kind of often say that I think if Kevin Feige, because I'm a Kevin Feige stan, like I stan Feige pretty hard. But I often tell people that had Feige been in charge of Star Wars when Ryan made that movie would not be what it was. You know, Feige, he's very hyper brand sensitive. He will shut things down, and I mean, like, you're talking about incredible talent, incredible directors, pedigree that's at first way above even Feige's. You know what I mean? You're talking about Edgar Wright,
Yeah.
right? So like, you know, Joss Whedon on Age of Ultron, right? Like the sort of gall or the balls of this guy to be like, yeah, no, you're this great creative person. You have this brand. You know, I understand you're guild affiliated. I understand all the rules. Guess what? You're not going to do this thing to this character. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so, I mean, Kathy's approach is just totally different than that. You know what I mean? Kathy's approach is, you know, let the filmmaker do their thing, like all of that. And there was no sort of creative oversight on what should have been done with that character. And, you know, it's been interesting to watch sort of like, you know, Sam Witwer come out and speak to this in the most just the most respectable way, the best way possible, and then to see it sort of weaponized again, you know, by both sides in the fan war. Because, you know, I don't know how familiar you are with, you know, my stance and my situation with this, but dude, like, I really am disappointed by both the people that sort of attack Disney and that have been very anti-Star Wars under Disney, and I'm equally as disappointed in the people that try to throw and cast stones at those people and basically just created this big bullshit storm where we can't even like talk about, you know what I'm saying? Like we can't like
No,
actually,
I absolutely agree.
yeah, like we can't come to the table and have a conversation like this and just be like, okay, you know, this is kind of how I see it, you know. So I want to ask you about this. So you're talking about deconstructing, and then I think that's a really interesting point. You know, when the High Republic was first announced, I was a person that sort of embraced it. Sort of early on, I was like, okay, this is really interesting. If they go back and tell the story there, and considering all the things I was hearing about how, oh, we're really going to nail the connective tissue, we're really going to have things well thought out and planned, I was like, okay, High Republic, that's really interesting. Go back and tell stories and movies around that time period. Now, my opinion on that has sort of shifted, and now I really do kind of want to see, you know, us going forward. But I'm wondering, what are your feelings about the High Republic and the potential for High Republic movies to happen? How do you feel about that?
I like it. I was happy that. See, I would like them to move forward also, but if they're going back, I appreciate the fact that they're going back to sort of develop a time period that is fresh. That I would have opposed them diving into the old Republic because we have that's established, and that then I may have been faced with again being upset by the way that they depicted certain characters, if you will, especially with the you know, the Sith of old, so the ancient Sith. So with us diving into this time period, 400 years, right, also giving us the Niles, I think that the only question that I would have is, because Yoda would be alive during this time period, is how they're going to portray Yoda during this time period. But other than that, I think it's I'm open to see what they have to bring. And Charles Schul, right? He's one of the writers for the comics, and he's doing this first novelization. So, and Justina Ireland is writing the who I'm actually a fan of her young adult novels. She's doing one of the young adult novels. So again, I'm optimistic, but, you know, cautiously optimistic, if you will.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. So this was something I saw a lot of, you know, Legends or EU fans sort of bring up as a criticism. I think most notably Eckhart's Ladder talked about this, where he said, you know, you have all these writers, you're sort of creating a new EU in canon by going back and doing the High Republic. It's kind of what it feels like. But you don't have some of the big dogs from the EU writing coming back and doing this stuff. And my counter argument to that was, but they've got some of the most studly creators that are currently making content, like Claudia Gray. You know, put politics aside, Claudia Gray is
She's great.
she's fantastic, dude.
Claudia Gray is a great writer.
She should be writing
And
scripts for movies and TV shows, in my
yeah,
opinion. Like she gets Star Wars, she gets the sensibilities. She wouldn't have done that to Luke Skywalker either, by the way.
no, no.
But you know, so that's sort of my counter argument there is like, look, Charles Soule killing it. You know, I'm actually not super familiar with Justine's work, but I'm happy to hear that you appreciate her stuff. I think I've read a third of the Dooku novel, and for whatever reason I fell off. But I consume a ton of content, so yeah.
Finish it.
Yeah, with
That's
your
a good,
recommendation,
that's a good
I'll have
novel.
to I'll have to hop
Yeah,
back
it's a
on
good
there.
novel.
So yeah, no, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that you'd be excited for High Republic. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're actually going to do the movies. Look, I know that that's what they were planning. That like they had essentially planned with Dan and Dave, you know, when they had those guys on for that series, the idea was the High Republic was going to introduce all of these characters and introduce this time period. And then the series of films that Dan and Dave were working on was going to take place likely after that sort of overarching story was done with the
Yeah.
High Republic. That was their plan. But now I'm not so sure. I don't know if that's still the plan. You know, they signed
I think
Taika. Yeah.
I think it is because from what I saw, the Luminous Project was all supposed to be literature. It wasn't supposed to be any film in there. It was just young adult novels, middle grade novels, and adult novels. So I think you're right. I think they were postponing, or not necessarily postponing, but the Luminous Project was only supposed to be around literature.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when we were like researching that, there was a lot of evidence to suggest that Disney had intended other multimedia tie-ins, like a video game, something on Disney Plus, and then eventually these theatrical movies. But it gets really weird as far as like, you know, what are you exactly talking about when you say the High Republic? Because when I think about it, you know, they have that on that whiteboard. They had written an actual ending, which I thought was kind of hilarious. But that's real shit. Like the story they're telling is a conceived 3-act story that will take place over different books and comics and things like that. So
Yeah.
I think when Disney first said that Luminous was not going to have movie tie-ins, I think they're talking about that. Like that story will be locked in. You know what I mean? But that time period potentially is ripe for all sorts of other multimedia stuff. So it'll be interesting.
It's a cool time period, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
And I want to see if there's any tie-in, if maybe these guys are fanatics, the Niles, if they have anything to do with Darth Nihilus. That's also an interesting
Right.
concept,
I know,
you know?
right? And they have the Abeloth. They have a lot of like Abeloth imagery. If you
That would be
notice,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that would be crazy.
yeah, so who knows? Like if they do some cool stuff like that. My current running theory is that they will run into these like Sith gods, these sort of like corrupted Jedi, and a lot of the Jedi of that time period will make this sort of realization about the Sith and about the Force, and then they will literally keep it as a secret from the Republic and from the Jedi Order. And I think that this will sort of be a retcon in which Yoda and Mace Windu are actually the only Jedi that are fully aware of the Sith activity over the past, 100, 500 years. And they're actually not telling the rest of the Jedi. Because there's a scene in Menace where Master Mundi says that's impossible. The Sith had been extinct for over a millennia. And if you watch that scene, like Yoda and
They look at you.
yeah, they look at each other. They give each other like sort of a weird look. And I think that would be dope as hell, dude. If like Yoda had this big secret, it brings in all these crazy implications, possibly talks about, the future.
That absolutely could be true, especially if they wanted to build off of that one novelization in the, I don't remember which one it is. It's the one where, oh man, I have it back there. It's with Dooku. He's having a conversation with Yoda, and Dooku is talking about how Yoda is just saintly, and Yoda says to him about how, like, what do you think? I've never touched the dark side, like, and when I read that, I can't even remember which novel it is.
Sounds
But when I
dope.
read that, it was dope. Yeah, I was like, oh shit, because I had never. Sorry for cursing.
Oh, you're
I had
good.
never thought about that. About the fact that Yoda would ever have a negative thought in his mind, and he's talking to his former Padawan, like, listen, man, I know, I've been there.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
think in 900 years, like, I've never done anything wrong? Like, come on. It was just, ah, I enjoyed that. So that would be a great tie-in uh, if they could work that out. He had that secret, and he just kept it on the wraps.
Yeah,
That
man.
would be awesome.
It would be pretty wild. I would really enjoy that. So all right, so let's talk about some of the live action stuff that's happening spinning out of Mandalorian, man. We've been just bombarded with live action news. I mean, like, first it's Ahsoka, and then it looks like that sort of opened,
Boba.
yeah, dude, it opened up the floodgates, right? So it's like Boba, Rex, Bo-Katan, Ezra Bridger, Sabine Wren, all of these characters are said to be appearing in live action. Now, currently, from what we know, and I kind of went over this in the video yesterday, it's like Mando 2 is going to set up the Rebel sequel show, which will be the search for Ezra Bridger. After that, I think there'll be some sort of resolution that leads to the main Ahsoka show and possibly a Thrawn project and sort of the creation of all of that. So I don't know how into Rebels or Clone Wars or any of that you are, but what do you think about this strategy they're enacting on Disney Plus?
Again, I enjoy the continuity. So I liked The Mandalorian. I enjoyed it. Maybe one or two episodes that were kind of fluffy for me, but as a whole, I enjoyed it. And at the end, with Moff Gideon holding the dark saber, man, that just was like, oh my goodness, because the last time that we see it, Sabine is handing it to Bo-Katan, right? So that just opened up that for me, like, okay, where did Moff get this? And then we get in the Clone Wars, we get to see the Siege of Mandalore, and we see that that sort of that tie-in, right? Because we also know that Maul got it from what was his name? The Mando.
Oh, yeah, the guy on Death Watch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was his?
Is it Pre Vizsla or
Was it Vizsla?
I'm blanking
brain
on the name.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. But so just to see them change hands like that, and just to see that connection, I'm excited for. So I enjoy. Gar Saxon. I enjoyed the thought of the live action series bringing in Bo-Katan, bringing in Boba. Now, I don't need to see in The Mandalorian, I don't need to see Boba more than maybe an episode or two. It'd be great to see them interact and then Boba fade out, because I don't want to see Boba become the focal point, because one of the great things about this show was that it was its own show. It was a new show that was birthed from this new Disney canon. So when you start to dive into, the member berries, if you will, that kind of discredits it. So let's let Mando stand on his own. Yes, it's great to see. It would be great to see Boba, because now we'll know in the canon that he did survive the Sarlacc pit, because to my knowledge, there has not been any mention of that, right? In the new canon, him surviving. So that would be awesome to just see, okay, Boba did survive, but I don't want to see him overshadow or take any significant role in this Mandalorian story. Let this be about the Mando, and then move forward. If there's a need to make a Boba live action series, then so be it. But let this show be about the Mandalorian.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm with you. I think it's a delicate balance with Boba. I gotta be honest. It's funny because, like, I agree with you. Like, I think that you're spot on. But I'm such a Boba fan that I think I said in a video, I was like, dude, I don't care if Boba comes in, blasts him in the head first episode, and it becomes the Boba show. Like, I'm in. Give me the Boba show.
But you know how badass Boba is. I mean, at 60 years old, Boba was still kicking ass, right? So you can't have Boba in this show for any great deal of time, because he will, like they say, he will Luke Skywalker it, man. He will take it over.
Now, the word is there's been some rumors that they'll spin out and do a solo Boba Fett project, either a series or a movie. And I'm really interested in that. And just for clarification, I think in the one of the Aftermath novels, the closest we get to confirmation that Boba survived is that the character, and this is another character that's actually going to show up in the show, and now I'm blanking on the dude's name, but he essentially,
I know who you're talking about.
yeah, he got the armor, he got Boba Fett's armor, so at least the armor came out of the Sarlacc pit, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
this dude is it Nath?
The
Something
sheriff
like
guy,
that?
right?
Yeah,
The
he's the sheriff. Exactly. Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's gonna, dude, that whole situation is gonna be crazy. I would love it, and this is total fan fiction nerding out, but I would love it if Boba took over Jabba's palace and kind of became like a new sort of crime lord. Like that would be really, really sweet. But yeah, no, you're right. You're right about Boba. I just think it's interesting that
Cobb Vanth, that's right. Cobb
yeah,
Vanth.
Cobb Vanth. Yep, that's the one. It's super interesting that they're going to go this route, man, and sort of connect all this stuff together. And I'm kind of thinking that we could get to a point where the main Star Wars, like the Star Wars everybody is focusing on, is actually this story. And sort of a thing where Ahsoka and Ezra and Thrawn could be players in a big story that's something similar to like the Yuuzhan Vong, where you know there's some kind of invading force into the galaxy. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that?
If they're going to do the Yuuzhan, they got to do them right. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. But I would love to see them if they were done correctly.
Yeah.
Just makeup alone.
Yeah.
Just makeup alone, bringing the Yuuzhan Vong to the screen would be a sight to see. But yeah, I mean, these guys that can resist the Force, these guys that just, I mean, their whole planet is alive. I mean, that would just be fantastic. I mean,
well, you know, you've
tough
touched,
sell, though.
yeah, you've touched on a really interesting part of that too, because you know they had to adapt the Ysalamari into canon, right? Because that's just not like that didn't line up with George's thoughts on the Force ultimately, right?
Yeah.
So you know, what do you think about that? Because you think about the Vong and this resistance to the Force. How could you do that in the new canon? Do you know what I mean? Like it seems like that would be a particularly tough thing to accomplish.
True. I didn't even really think about that.
Yeah, it almost have to.
You mean like?
Well, you'd almost
ahead,
have
I'm
to
sorry.
make them like, no, you're good. You'd almost have to make them like just incredibly strong with the Force or something to that effect. Do you know what I mean?
You mean the Vong?
Yeah.
So that they were Force resistant?
Right.
Maybe some kind of a vacuum or something like that. Maybe where they sort of, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
It would be tough, man. It would be tough.
Yeah, it would be tough. I don't know. I mean, it would be really interesting to see them, and I think the Vong are a really interesting thing from Legends that would be kind of cool to be brought in. But again, it just kind of sort of creates problems from that perspective. I almost feel like they're better off sort of creating an entirely new creature or something like that can, you know, pose a threat to the galaxy or to the Jedi specifically. Let me ask you this. I'll ask you this question, and then we'll shift into Q&A because I definitely want to know if people have questions for you or just in general about Star Wars.
Yeah, no worries.
What do you think the future of the Jedi Order is? Moving past Episode 9, you know, whether it's with Ahsoka and Ezra or just in general, what do you want them to do with the Jedi moving forward? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, it's actually tough because when you see the end of Episode 9 and with Rey actually claiming to be a Skywalker and you know that with what that name carries, it seems like her intention is to carry on that legacy. Otherwise, she could have named herself anything. She could have even said Palpatine, but the fact that she chose to adapt the Skywalker name just spoke to me that her intention is to continue with what the Skywalkers stood for, right? And so that means that she is now the last Jedi, and her intention will be to sort of seek out Force sensitives and to train to bring about this new Jedi Order. So does that mean that there's a possibility that she could encounter Ezra? She could encounter Ahsoka? It's possible. Maybe the three of them together are bringing about, because they've all three of those characters have enlightenment, if you will, where they've seen the faults of the Jedi and still the good in the Jedi. So they will, if you were to take the three of them, maybe that's the new Jedi triumvirate, if you, sort of a trinity.
I'd be kind of into that, and you can throw Finn into that mix a little bit too. I mean, I think that potentially with some training from Rey, he could develop his Force abilities even further, which would be pretty cool. I feel like in a lot of ways, Finn got done sort of dirty, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to dive down on that rabbit hole, I mean, that was part of my biggest problem with, or one of my biggest problems with The Force Awakens transitioning to the Last Jedi, was just the fact of the blatant neglect. I mean, it was clear that JJ had every intention to make him Force sensitive. It was clear from the get-go. There was no way that anyone could change my mind that was not his intention.
Yeah, he's Kyle Katarn. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of...
Yeah. I mean, I did a whole video about that, man. Like, he was Force sensitive from the jump. He found the only Force sensitive being on Jakku. I mean, come on, bro. I mean, how does that just... It's the Force working through him. From the first scene when that guy, I think it was Fives, or Nines, touches his face and it just wakes up. He was the first one that the Force awoken.
Yeah, no, dude, you're right. But yeah. Kind of sucks. Tara dropped a big fat super chat. Thank you so much, Tara. Just saying, good to see you this morning, Lord Callas. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. Thanks for the support. So, are you good with taking a couple questions? We'll just kind of get into Q&A and.
Yeah. I got a corporate call at 11, so I just got to roll at that by that time.
Yeah. I do remember that now. Yeah. Well, guys, if you have any questions, drop them into the chat. I think we could probably do just one or two, and then we'll have to let Callas go. But yeah, I highly recommend checking out his stuff. I was just watching a video you did where you were talking about a thing in the Dooku novel, and you were speaking as though you were Dooku. And sort of like, and I was like, dude, this is fucking sweet.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I like that. Let's see if anybody brings in any questions. My chat's a little delayed here. Okay, so, oh wow, okay, thanks Trinity. Trinity dropped a super chat. Doesn't look like there's any thing attached to it, but I know Trinity's a big supporter of yours as well.
Yeah.
He said, if you're not subscribed to Lord Callas TV, how much more convincing do you need? Go subscribe to this man's channel now. He knows his stuff and he truly loves Star Wars. I co-sign that 100%. Okay,
Thank you, guys.
Of course, man, of course. Okay, so this is a good one, man. Let me throw this one at you. Devin Hunt asks, do you think that the Jedi will morph into gray Jedi and create a new order as these gray Jedi and kind of be like Qui-Gon Jinn, sort of? So do you want to touch on that? What do you think about the gray Jedi possibility?
Do I think they will morph into? I think it's its own entity. I don't think that if there are going to be Jedi, then there can be the gray Jedi. If it's its own, not to borrow the name of its own gray Jedi order, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that should be its own sect, and then you have the actual Jedi, because they have two different philosophies. You know what I mean? And so it just with that in mind, they can't be the same thing. Just in my opinion, there are some Jedi who do toe that line, who are more who do see that there are some rules that can be bent a little bit, but they aren't necessarily gray Jedi, because they don't subscribe to those philosophies as a whole.
Yeah.
Where you have the gray Jedi code, you have the Sith code, you have the Jedi code. So when you look at a Qui-Gon Jinn, while yes, some of his decisions that he makes may bend that line morally, maybe, but ultimately he would stand on the side of the Jedi.
Right.
His morals, they more align with the Jedi code than they would the Gray Jedi code. He just simply knows that there's more than one means to an end.
Right. That's a very purist answer. I think that's what George would tell you too. You know, like I think that from his perspective, like there is no such thing as a great Jedi. Like because I think one of the themes of Star Wars, it's really meant to be binary morality. And the truth is, if you dabble with the dark side, like you're fucked. Like basically, like there is no like right way. There is no good way to dabble with the dark side. You know, maybe the dogmatic aspects of the Jedi are false because I was really illuminated by that thing that Filoni said about the Duel of the Fates and Qui-Gon, and he said that like Qui-Gon is not afraid to love, he's not afraid to feel things, he's not afraid to be attached, and he's ahead of the Jedi in their understanding that is not the way. And so there is something to be said. Like I understand where the question comes from, and the spirit behind the question is good because I think they can be more sensible with their code. But there really isn't such a thing as a great Jedi, which might people might not like me saying that, but that's I think that's what George would tell you.
Yeah.
All right, let's get one more question to you, my friend, and then we'll let you go. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Oh, sorry. Chat's all weird here. MCU characters are great if they were for. Okay. I don't know if that's a good question to ask Callas. Callas, how into the MCU are you? Are you into the Marvel movies?
I'm a normie, is how I would be described. I'm a normie. I do. So the extent of my knowledge is the movies, and then talking to people like Trinity and talking to people like Fatal J. So that and Abu Nas, those are that's the extent of my Marvel knowledge. Gotcha. But I very much enjoy it, but I'm very much a normie.
Gotcha. So we'll skip that question. I'll throw this one at you, and then we'll let you go. I came late to the stream, so in your opinion, is there a future for the Sith, or what is the future of the Sith? Kind of in question. Looks like there was an ultimate victory. Were the Sith actually defeated? What do you think's going on with the Sith, man?
Here's the thing. So as long as there is a Force sensitive being, as long as there's a holocron out there that can be found, there can be a Sith, and I just hope that they subscribe to the rule of two. If they choose to make it the rule of one, if they choose to make it the dyad, whatever the case may be. But as long as we can find a Force sensitive that can find a holocron that can then find an apprentice, there can be a Sith.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, dude. I have this wild theory that like people hate, bro. But my theory is essentially that Rey was pregnant with twins at the end of Rise.
I heard your theory. It was pretty dope, actually.
Well, thank you. But don't say that too loudly. People will hate you for it. So what I think would be so cool about that is that like the Skywalkers moving forward past Rey, they would think they're purely Skywalkers, and then come to realize they have this lineage with Palpatine and the Sith as well. And then it's just this beautiful cyclical thing where like one of them turns to the dark side, and then you sort of start this whole situation over. Reminds me a lot of what they did in the EU with Jaina and
Jason.
Yeah, Jason. Yeah. So I think it would be kind of. It would be kind of cool, man. I don't want the Sith to be gone.
Yeah, we need the Sith. I mean, that's just the foundation. That is the purest representation of good and evil are your Jedi and your Sith. Granted, there are dark side users. Granted, there are other light side users. Granted, there's the Bindu, right? The one in the middle, like they said. So, yes, we do know that there are all of these different aspects of the Force, but we need the Sith for Star Wars. We need the Jedi for Star Wars. It'd be like having Harry Potter with no wizards.
Yeah,
right. You can't not have the Sith.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there 100%. Well, Callas, thanks so much for being here, my friend. Just go ahead, plug your channel. Do you have any interesting pieces of content coming out or anything like that? The floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Josh and Den of Nerds, for having me. I very much appreciate it. you can check me out, Lord Callas TV. I do news, reviews, theories, clues. I do Star Wars lore, whether it be EU or I even dive into the new canon or the canon as it is. So I am where Star Wars lives. That's what I like to say. So check me out. I'm also on the Dark Council every Tuesday over at Drunk 3PO's channel. So you can check me out there with Abu Nas and Drunk 3PO, Fatal J, and Damaj and I, and the Gospel According to Mark with the C every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. So again, Josh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely,
Love
my
to come
friend.
back.
Absolutely, my friend. We'll definitely have you back on. So guys, we're gonna let Callas go to this work thing. Man, I thought that was I felt like that was a good conversation. I want to know what you guys think, of course, in the comment section below. Let me know, and we'll do like 10 more minutes of Q&A here, and then we'll call it a show. Call it a week for the live streams. XR Kun, what did you miss? A lot. That's the thing about that. You missed a lot. What do you think, Chet? No, I agree. Callas knows his stuff. For sure. I had a question above Trinity's super chat. Oh, no. Did we miss your super chat, Wandering Dog? Let me see if I can find that. And apologies if we missed that. Let's see here. I don't know, man. I'm having a little bit of trouble. Just felt like it. Lavis. Oh, Lavis, dude. You don't got to do all that. Thanks, though, brother. Appreciate the support. Callas, thanks again, brother. Thank you so much, man. And let's, man. The compy's been acting up. I got blue screened of death earlier, guys. I got blue screened of death. Can anybody find Wandering Dog's super chat for me? I don't really see it. Sorry, Wandering Dog. Are you sure it went through? Oh, wait, I had a question above Trinity's. Oh, I see what you mean. So it wasn't a super chat, but you had a question, and now you're super chatting to try. Okay, I think that's what you meant, right? Let me see then. Let me get up to Trinity's. Okay, Josh. Here we go. What would you feel about maybe Rebel sequel telling Heir to the Empire with Ezra replace? Oh, and okay. Yeah, that's really cool, man. Wandering Dog, that is a really cool idea. You know, I kind of mentioned this in the video yesterday, but I think that there's a really good opportunity to do some of the best things that they did in the EU and to do them with what they're doing on Disney Plus with these characters. And so, you know, I don't know if there would be like a clone of Ezra. That would be kind of wild, but that's not to say that they couldn't find maybe a clone of an old Jedi or something out there in the unknown regions. One of the things that's like really interesting about this whole opportunity with them going out in the unknown regions and with just in general, you know, going out there with the Chiss and possibly doing the Grisk, which sort of look like a new version maybe of the Yusan. There's just sort of unlimited possibilities out there. I mean, we just learned in episode 9 that Exegol is this planet that had Sith people and Sith cultists there doing Sithy things, and it was completely unknown to the Jedi in the known galaxy and to basically the citizens of the known galaxy. So there's a lot of opportunity to do some really interesting things out there. I'd love to see them find Rakata Prime or something similar to that, where they're looking at those technologies and those structures. That would be really cool. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to do interesting stuff with Ezra. I don't know if Ezra's going to go dark side though. You know, I think the potential for Ezra to go dark side is an important story element, but I'm wondering like if they would actually have Ezra go to the dark side. You know what I mean? I'm not so sure. I am not so sure. a Chiss show in the vein of the OG Star Trek, dude, I'd watch that too, Wayne. I would watch the hell out of that. And you know what else? I'm really pumped to see Ahmed Best as a Jedi in the Jedi Temple show. You know, they delayed it a week, which I think is understandable. But, man, I want to check that out. Are you ready for FF vs. Ultimate Nullifiers? Yes, I am, Dave. Yes, I am. And we are going to be promoting the hell out of that next week on the Nerd Card Showdown. The Fantastic Four versus the Ultimate Nullifiers. The second week in our 15-week tournament to decide who is the nerdiest among them. The question is, Dave, are you ready? That's the real question. Are you ready? Keep that echo in the beginning of the showdown. I got to find out what that echo was, Lavis. I don't even know what that echo was. And then the music that I should have had playing underneath the intro stopped playing. Like, what? There's some stuff we got to go in there and tinker, man. We got to figure that out. But I think maybe we could do an echo. You know what I mean? We could do a little something, something. You know? Use the voice changer. Use the voice mod a little bit. The echo was cool. Damn, I thought the echo was cringy. Nullifier's gonna whoop some ass, says Justin. Nice, man. You love to see it. I would love for the Rebels sequel series, Ahsoka series, and Thrawn series to set up a Sola Ezra Bridger movie and establish him as the main Star Wars hero moving forward. Look, that would be really cool, Russell. The problem is he's like 50. He's in his 50s after Episode 9. I'm not saying you can't have him as an active member of whatever's going on, but I think it's just be a little strange to have him be the main hero. If anything, they should have either the children of Rey or some new Force birth or prodigy or something like that that would be focused on. But make no mistake about it, I think Ezra Bridger is going to play a very important role in the future of Star Wars, in what is going on with the Force, in the context of maybe the unknown regions, maybe sort of unknown threats, something really epic. Like what I said in the video when I was talking about Ezra is there's no way that Ahsoka, being as connected as she is to the cosmic force, being Ahsoka the White, being this symbol for the light side, there's no way that she's just going after Ezra because they want to say hi again. No, there's a cosmic reason that she is going after Ezra Bridger. There's a cosmic reason. And I think that is going to be interesting to see it play out. But I don't know if he will be the hero of Star Wars moving forward. I don't know if that's necessarily the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Ahsoka and Ezra are such insanely powerful Jedi. Yeah, for sure, dude. For sure. People don't realize how strong Ezra is and how strong he could become. That's the other side of it. How strong he could become. How strong he could become. Ahmed is on it today? What do you mean he's on it today, Lavis? So explain yourself, bruh. What season will they kill off Baby Yoda? Adam from Fanjecture asks. Hopefully not next season. Smash that like button. Can you please read my question? What was the question? I mean, can you put the question in again, man? It's just too hard for me to find it in the chat and all that. The compy's having issues. Adam's new name is Ahmed or Ahmad. More of a comment. Gotcha. Do you think the Yuuzhan Vong will be utilized in canon? It's really hard to say. You know, Callas and I sort of spoke to this a little bit. You know, if you didn't know what I was talking about, the Ysalamari are these little lizards that in Heir to the Empire create sort of a barrier or a force field for the Force. And so Thrawn had these creatures. He found these creatures. It's really wild, dude. He finds these creatures, and then he uses them to protect himself from the fury of that cloned Kaboth or Kaboth or however you pronounce that dude's name. But they did not bring that into the canon version of Thrawn because that's not how the Force works, right? I'm thinking about Harrison Ford, right? That's not how the Force works, you know? That's not how it works. So the Vaughn had a similar thing where they were resistant to the Force. But how would you do that in canon? Yeah, I don't know. Rey didn't move to Tatooine. She simply went there to bury the sabers. How do you know that, Star Wars Santa? How do you know that? Would having a dual continuity by making new Legends books make a lot of the fan base happy? I've thought a lot about that, Jacob's Quest, actually. I do think that would be kind of cool. And I have no idea why they don't just create new Legends content. It seems like a no-brainer to me. It sort of goes back to, you know, one of the things we talk about with DC, right? Where it's like, why are they not allowing Batman to be on the CW shows just because they want Batman to be in the movie theaters? It doesn't make sense. If you're doing a separate universe, there would be a separate Batman. Star Wars Santa says, nothing in the novelization or the movie says that she moved there. Yeah, but nothing, as far as I'm aware, says that she didn't. Do you think Ezra is well known enough to have a live action show based around the search for him? Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely think so. And also, I don't think that's what the live action show is going to be about. That's what the animated show is going to be about. So if you really think about it, and I've seen people say like, but wait a minute, why are they even doing the Rebel sequel series in animation? It actually is brilliant. Because it will take all of the fans of Rebels who were fans of animation and they will come in. Now, the trick is, will the Mandalorian live action appearance be enough to convert live action viewers to the animation? And I think it will to a degree. And then what happens after that is you take that animation and you then translate it into a live action sequel after that. So they're trying to create this easy entry point. That, like, again, Star Wars MCU. If you don't understand why I'm calling it the Star Wars MCU and, oh, it doesn't sound good, call it this. Call it whatever the fuck you want to call it. I'm calling it the Star Wars MCU because it's easy for normies to understand. Star Wars MCU. MCU doing things right. Star Wars currently not doing things right. Star Wars MCU. You put the things together and it depicts and explains what the hell the difference is with the new Star Wars content. I really don't care if you don't like the phonetics of what I'm trying to convey. Watch it. Watch it. I'll shut this whole stream down and stream by myself. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Everybody's freezing out. Get that finger out of my face. Fan theory. Baby Yoda turns to the dark side like the dark Yoda we saw in Clone Wars. Yeah, that's actually... Al Schuler was talking about that. Chet pulls the plug. Is that a slipstream? Ooh, nice. Well, I like that. I like that. I saw somebody say in the comments on the video yesterday, they said, way to tell your viewers fuck you or something like that. When I made the joke with The Rock and all that, and I'm just like, dude, wow, people are so sensitive, bro. Like, come on. I can't make a little bit of a joke, a self-referential joke. People are like, Way to tell your viewers, fuck you. You're horrible. I just kind of wanted to be like, and I didn't, right? Cooler heads prevailed. But I wanted to be like, I'm not telling my viewers, fuck you, but I will tell you, fuck you. See ya! You know? Hit him with the band hammer. Hey, Trinity. Are you streaming? Trinity, are you streaming? Let's see. I gotta tell you, it's so funny. I don't know if you guys know, when you type in second and then start to type in street, the first thing that'll autofill is the second stimulus check, which I find so hilarious. So many people searching for second stimulus check. Oh, man. I mean, it's sad, really. It's sad because there is no second stimulus check. Yeah. I guess we could just leave it there. But the reason it's funny is because it's Trinity. Like, it's Trinity and second stimulus check and Trinity. And if you don't understand why those two things are funny together, then you don't watch Trinity enough. They're searching for that on YouTube? Absolutely. YouTube is the second largest search engine on the planet. People use it for searching for all sorts of things. People pissed at me because Campia canceled Robert Meyer Burnett. I'm being canceled, so I can't go on now. Okay, gotcha. So are you not streaming today, Trinity? Oh, yeah, I think you said you were cutting back on your streams anyways, didn't you? You might have said that. We might not have a Trinity stream today, ladies and gentlemen. Are they also trying to print the stimulus checks off YouTube? They might. Yeah, I don't think Rey stayed on Tatooine. It doesn't matter what you think, Jacob. Okay, gotcha. All right, everybody, we're going to call it there. Thanks for the support. Guys, go check out Callas. I think he does really good stuff. And just in general, I felt like it was a good week of streaming. So thank you guys for being here. I know the world is crazy. It's melting down. But until such time that the world stops spinning, we are going to act as though it will continue to do so, or whatever that Nick Fury dope-ass quote is, okay? You guys are amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll be back at it Monday, okay? So, as I always say, I hope you guys are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.